everyone. Thanks for coming here. And if you are sitting at the back, please come to the front. It's nicer. Uh, yeah, I'll let you get settled. So it's a great honor and a big privilege. And most of all, I feel incredibly lucky to be on stage with Pilar Quintana. I'm meeting her after 12 or 13 years. We met during a residency in Hong Kong and practically spent almost all our time together. And so she's somebody I look up to not just as a writer, but also as a woman. And somebody who's, incredible force of nature, I should say. I had just come out of a very abusive and violent marriage, and meeting Pilar made me feel that, instead of looking at life and thinking, oh, I have lost my life, I have lost my future, I looked at Pilar and I got all the strength to say, oh, wow, you can be very powerful, you can be very wild, you can be very strong on your own. So I think, she may not know that, but I think I should tell this in front of everybody. But Pilar was one of the people who was transformational to letting me find my own strength. So thank you for that, Pilar. Yesterday we had a discussion again about writing and women, and one of the things we talked about was that everyone wants to know, why women are writing this story or that story, but very few people talk about the craft aspect of it, like, where do you like to write? What do you like to write? And I have to say, I learned a lot from watching Pilar work, because at least then she used to go to cafes and we used to sit outside smoking and writing. So has your routine changed? And how do you go to writing?
First of all, Meena, thank you. I couldn't be happier to be here in India with Meena. This is very meaningful to me, and I want to thank you all for being here as well. Well, yeah, it has changed. People ask a lot if you have rituals to write. Yeah, and I used to until I had a son. Yeah, after I had a son, I just can write almost anywhere,
Mic closed.
anywhere and everywhere. I write in planes. I just need him to be at school and then I can write. But during the pandemic, I had to write with him at home and I could do it. Yeah, so I don't have any rituals at all now. I can write almost anywhere. I think I have a very long process. I'm a planner, so I really plan my stories, and that aspect of writing I really enjoy. Then comes the time of actually sitting in front of the computer writing, and I hate that. It's excruciating, it's painful. It takes me, I don't know, writing a novel, perhaps a year, and then I rewrite, and I do enjoy that process. It's also a long process, but that's what I most enjoy. Yeah.
Recently, a book that has all of us talking, and talking from various aspects, is Arundhati Roy's memoir of her mother. And she's from Kerala, so we are talking a lot about it. And I really wanted to talk about your book because the mother is a very central figure, whether it's The Abyss or The Bitch, and the two books I read. I think I read the book when it first came out. And I really want to explore, what do you think is this thing about writing your mother? How do you feel about that? Do you feel conflicted? Where do you come from when you write your mother?
Well, I started writing about motherhood or the figure of the mother very early on, and I think it's my biggest theme, and it's not surprise because I guess our most important relationship is our first relationship, and our most important relationship is with the mother. I must say my new novel is not about motherhood, and maybe
Okay.
my psychologist is going to be proud. She's going to say, "Oh, finally,
Yes.
finally, you're writing about something else," you know. So when I wrote La Perra, the bitch, I was, how do you say, feeding my baby?
Nursing.
Nursing. I was nursing my baby, and I guess that was a big change in me and in my writing. Yeah. And I guess I wanted to tell myself that this baby was mine for now. but that I had to learn to
Let go.
let him go. You know, that was going to be my biggest lesson as a person and as a mother, to let go. And I guess I started understanding my mother. Yeah, but while I was writing The Beach, which is about a woman whose only desire has been to be a mother, and she's not able to get pregnant, I was thinking, but this is just one aspect of motherhood, yeah. And I was planning in my head Abyss, which is about a woman that she finds herself being a mother, but if you ask her, maybe she didn't want to, yeah. And I think motherhood's very complex, yeah. But we've been taught to talk about only the positive aspects of it, yeah. I don't know, and the portrait of motherhood has been incomplete, you know, and also fake. In TV commercials, we see newborn mothers. By do you have Johnson and Johnson here in India? You know, and in these commercials, a mother of a newborn, she's beautiful, skinny, her hair's done, she has makeup, and she's feeding the baby, nursing, so happy, you know. And we all, if we're mothers, we know it's not like that. Yeah, you have a body that you don't recognize anymore. You feel ugly, fat, you're bleeding, and your baby's crying, and you want to get rid of it. You know, and they don't tell you that motherhood has a dark side. Yeah.
I have to interrupt here because it just she talked about feeding the baby, and suddenly something triggered. I want to share this, and then you go back to motherhood. The thing is, I am the mother of two boys. They're 6 and 8 now, but I think for 5 years in my 30s, I was either pregnant or I was breastfeeding, and these were 5 continuous years. And but Pilar and I kept in touch mostly through G Talk, I think, which was still around, or at least I don't know, Facebook conversations, because Facebook chat, which was also around. And I remember, like, I had just had my child and I didn't know what to do. So she had a son 1 year before I had. So I would write to Pilar of all people. My mother said something very special to me. She said, if you become a mother, Meena, it does not mean I become a nanny. So I could never ask my mother for advice, And she's like, I don't know anything. See, I gave birth to you by cesarean, so you have a natural delivery. I cannot help you. I was like, thank you, mom. My baby is crying. I cannot help you. I don't know what to do. So I was talking to Pilar, and Pilar's like, I don't know if I should say this on the stage, but she said to me, give the boob, Meena. If he's cranky, you give the boob. He's not eating, you give the boob. He's crying, you give him the breast, because that's going to make your child normal. And I think over a 5-year period between the two babies, this is all I did. All I did. They were sick.
The boob.
Give them the boob.
Magical.
That's magical. And yeah, so, so much of my motherhood journey was just listening to this one, one magical piece of advice.
Yeah,
yes, and it's universal advice. It fits everything. But then again, nobody talks about it, right? Like, it's motherhood is valued, but the physical aspect of, what it takes from you, it's not.
Like you're a mammal.
Yes, my own mom. Yeah. But I like my mom for that. She said two things to me. She said, Meena, you becoming a mom does not mean I become a nanny. The second thing she said is, every baby is 2 books less from you. I think she was really, I don't know, perceptive, because I think we shouldn't only celebrate motherhood. She was like warning me of all the dangers ahead. So, but yes, you continue, please. I had to tell people that, yeah, Pilar, when I said she's transformational, it's not just in one way, like.
Well, but basically,
we raised our children together, but far away.
Yeah, but basically what I want to say is that we've been lied about motherhood, yeah? And I think it was necessary that we started talking about real motherhood.
Yes, thank you. Pilar, the other thing that, I really liked in your prose, it's like, there's no wasted word, there's no wasted sentence. And often you find that only in the work of poets, like to not have anything, like it's really, and even the translation it comes through. I couldn't read you in the original Spanish, but I read you in Lisa Dillman's translation. and it's so taut and it's so tight. And for me, when you write about nature like that, or you write about the coast like that, or you write about the jungle like that, or you write about emotions like that, or you talk about, disgust at looking at a man, whatever it is, it's so spare. How do you get on that prose like?
Well, I guess it's like walking, you walk a certain way and that's the way you walk. But when your mother tells you, please walk straight, that's not, you start pretending the way you walk. So I think there's something natural in my writing that it's sparse. Yeah. But also, these books, when you grab them and in the back cover, they say, like, this book, the protagonist is language. I'm like, I don't want to read this. Yeah, I want a book to be about something else, not just language. Yeah, to tell me something. I want to be told a story, basically. And I think language must be at the service of the story, not the other way around. Yeah, so I work very hard to get to the bone, so language does not distract us from the main thing, which for me is the story. Yeah.
Yeah. Again, thank you, Pilar, on this thing about language not distracting. I remember something else. I'm sorry to, make this walk down memory lane. We were discussing, and this was before we became mothers or anything of that kind, or even had the idea of becoming a mother. But you said to me something perceptive about language. You said that language is not what it is, because you said children exist beyond language. And because they exist beyond language, they know the truths. That language is often used to, hide, change, confuse,
Lie.
and as a, almost as an act of subterfuge. So, how do you look at language as all of this, and where do you think children exist in this continuum? Like,
I think it must be invisible. I started writing as a script writer, yeah, where what it's important, it's the story. You do not need to be elegant or poetic or intelligent when you write a script write. You need to be clear. Yeah? So the director can see what they have to do. And I think in literature you can be poetic or you can be intelligent, yeah, but mostly you still need to be clear. And I think some writers forget about that and they get too distracted by the language because they want to show you how beautiful they write. Yeah, but to me, that takes away. Yeah, I want almost the language to be invisible. Yeah, so the reader forgets they're reading and they go and live inside the story. I love the books that when I'm reading, I forget that I'm here. Yeah, I love these books that I go to live inside that book, inside that world. Yeah, and I think you can do that if you cheat them enough that they don't know they're reading. Yeah.
oh yes. The other thing that I wanted to talk is about the social class about which you write, because in the stories it's not necessarily the people who consume the book who the book is about. Like, it's not a bourgeoisie that you're writing about. And what makes you choose your subjects?
I don't know if I choose them
Okay,
or they,
they choose you?
me,
Yeah,
or
okay.
they choose me. Yeah, and I'm from a city in Colombia, which is a big city, the third city. Yeah, it's like in Colombia's the biggest city is Bogota, which is like 10 million people. Then Medellin, which is 3 million people, and then my city, Cali, which is 2 million people. For Colombia, I know in India maybe that's a very small city, but for Colombia, that's a big city. Yeah, but it is almost like a little town. Yeah, and it's a very segregated city by social classes. Yeah, and by race. Yeah, and where you're born, you will die. Yeah, there's no social mobility in that city. Um, and I guess that was quite an experience growing up there, because there's, as a woman, as a Colombian woman, you must be, as a woman from Cali, you must be a certain way. Yeah, if you're not, the first thing you have to do is straighten your hair. If you are born with curly hair, you have to straighten it. Yeah, it's very not proper for a lady to not straighten her hair. Yeah, and I didn't fit within the norm in Cali. Yeah, and I guess that made me always a foreigner in my place. So I I almost can tell about the place where I'm from an outsider's point of view. And I guess that's what a writer is, yeah? A person who's able to tell their place
Like an outsider.
through like an outsider, exactly.
Uh, Very closely linked to this question of the outsider is the question of the women writer. Like, the popular story of Colombia that's handed out to us is a story of stereotypes, right? And and I always think that the figure of the women writer is somebody who manages to escape in some ways many of these stereotypes. And but how do you think that your own society looks at women writers?
Yeah, well, I've been editing for the last 5 years Colombian Women's Library. It is a collection of Colombian writers that they have been forgotten. Yeah, Colombian female writers that have been forgotten. Many of them were very famous. They won prizes. The works were translated. Yeah, but somehow after they died, their books, the works disappeared, and nobody read them anymore. Yeah, so we decided to go and bring their works back so people can read them. Yeah, I've been working. These are women from our colonial times, so since the 1600s until the first half of the 20th century. And while I was promoting in the first in 2022, we published 18 of them. Yeah, 18 books by 18 female authors. In this year, we published 10 anthologies, which included 96 ladies and a male who we thought was a female, but you know, he wasn't. Um, so we published 97 authors, and during the promotion of these, like while I was talking to the public in Colombia, they would often ask, "But what do women write about?" Yeah, and I was put off a bit by that question because I thought they wanted me to say that women are so nice and soft and they write about motherhood and beautiful things and nature and butterflies. Yeah, so I used to say they write about everything just like men. They're complex and complicated creatures. They're human beings. Yeah, and I thought a more interesting question was how women write. Yeah, because they do have different conditions from men. Yeah, so when I started working this project, I wanted to write a chronist. You say chronist? Chronicle?
Chronicle, maybe?
A
I don't know.
chronicle. It's the work, but how do you say the writer that writes chronicles?
Oh, the chronicler?
Cronista.
Yeah.
A cronista.
Chronicle
Yeah,
writer,
a chronicle
chronicler.
writer. Yeah,
Yeah.
we have chronicle writers from the Indies. Yeah, and they're all male. So I dreamt of finding
A
a
female.
female one, and there weren't any. Yeah, and historians told me that it was impossible because in those days women uh, weren't allowed to write. The first writers from the New World are nuns, yeah, but they didn't write like we write now. They wrote um, by supervised and by the order of the confessor, yeah, who said, This lady is very weird. I need to examine her thoughts, so please write. Yeah, and many of their works aren't signed by them, by the women, but by the confessor. Yeah, so their works are called The Life of Mother Meena Kandasamy by, and the name of the confessor.
Confessor.
You know, so then we had the Republican women
Yeah.
writing, and they were a bit more free to write, but their works come with a prologue by by a husband or father or uncle saying, I promise you she's a good mother. She's writing this book, but believe me,
Makes the
she's a
coffee.
good wife. You know what I mean? And that's how women wrote, you know? So writing is always a marginalized profession, but for women, they're in the margin of the margin. And I guess today we have better conditions,
Yes. Yeah.
but we still are in the margin of the margin.
Yeah. Do you yesterday on this, a similar stage, I was with Professor Sherin and we were discussing about uh, we write on all of these things, which touch upon life, touch upon nation, class, conflict, social evils, if you can call them that, all of these things. But somehow the women escape the label of being called political, or you just label political and not fitting in any other box. How do you feel that your work talks to the politics of your time?
But
The
I do
recept-
think we have like a tag, you
Yeah,
know,
yes, yeah.
and our tag is we're female, yeah, and it's like all the time I'm invited to talk about being a woman, yeah, not
yeah.
about the characters I write,
Yeah, yeah.
not about my work, but about being a female writer, and I have all the time I have to explain myself as a woman.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
My male colleagues, they're never told how is it for a male
To be a man,
to
yeah.
to be a male writer. Yeah, and I'm tired about talking
No,
about being a woman. You know, I'm also a writer that happens to be a woman, and
Yeah.
of course it is important to talk about these things.
Yeah.
But um, that's also political.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a statement that in 2025 we still have to say, listen, we're not just females,
Yes.
we're human beings. Yeah, see us please not just as female but as a human being. And I think that's there's nothing more political than that.
Yes, I completely agree with you on the way the female identity or women's identity is flattened into just being, monochrome or two-dimensional, which is why I think when we write, it becomes a struggle to actually take space. It becomes a struggle to say, like for instance, it's very common. Almost everyone who reads has read Gabriel Garcia Marquez, who is, but he's never seen as, as you said, either a male writer alone, but, he writes on politics, he's written on journalism, he's seen as somebody who writes on romantic stuff,
And he can write about sex and they won't
Yes,
say he's
yes.
a hot writer. No,
yeah.
he's just a writer.
Yeah. So he can write about sex. So it's all of these things that they are allowed to be at once, but but to stake the claim to be all of that is quite difficult. That's where the question was coming from, because I find that in Chennai I'm my most political because that's where I'm from. Even in Kerala I'm political, but when I'm read in the UK, I'm read as, only somebody who writes about violence or, survived a bad marriage. And therefore, she's, it's reduced to women's writing as opposed to, oh, well, this is somebody who is anti-capitalist and, she's a Marxist writer. I think if you have to be a white woman to be a Marxist writer as well, there's all
Yeah,
of
but
this.
but it's like in Europe. In
Yeah,
Europe,
so
I'm a Latin American writer. Yeah, and they asked me, as a Latin American writer, why do you not write about violence? And I'm like, maybe I'm not writing about war in Colombia, but I am writing about violence. Yeah,
yeah.
just the subtle violence that it's not perhaps made of blood and of weapons being shot, but it is also the more subtle violence that it's the cause of the political violence, you know?
Yeah, so it was just about how when your work travels, it's almost like it gets diluted, and the farther away you are. So that's all I was, trying to find out about reception and yeah, and that kind of stereotyping. I have another question before we open up to the audience. So a couple of questions actually. One of the thing is that we write. The, at least the description here said, it's about nature, it's about the wild things, and I grew up like in an urban forest for some reason. Like it was a reserve forest, but there was a campus there, and I've always felt that when you look at life, like we had monkeys running into our classrooms, we had like deer outside, and when you grew up in that kind of jungle, like I would open my fridge and there'd be like a snake under that. So when you grew up in a jungle, there's something that it programs you differently, at least for me, because you learn a lot of these things. Okay, you talk about survival of the fittest, but sometimes you also realize that you cannot become the fittest unless you have struggle, right? Like, and it become the struggle to survive becomes so essential to being fit. And I think that there are landscapes, and as a Tamil writer, Tamil has a culture of 2,500 years, and they are looking at everything in terms of landscapes and emotions. Like, what does the seaside mean to you? Like, in Tamil culture, the mountains is where the first illicit meeting or the first meeting of the lovers takes place. The desert is,
I think I'm Tamil.
yeah, so so the desert landscape or the sea landscape is where she's pining for him to come back. And so every landscape, the pastoral landscape or the agricultural landscape is where they're having their first quarrel, but they're also living together. So each landscape corresponds to an emotion, and in your work there's so much landscape going around. So I want you to talk about this connection, this very vivid connection between the world we inhabit and what it reflects on us as people, as a personality, and as a mood.
I think we have forgotten that we are animals, and we think of ourselves as something special in creation. Yeah, like we are special, not just animals in this world. Yeah, and I like to remind us that we're just part of nature. Yeah, and it's just what you were saying. Yeah, our cities are nature. Yeah, and I like to explore our animal side. We are mammalians, and I like to put my characters in nature just to remind us that we are not special, that we're part of this, just like the trees, like the monkeys, like the snakes. And I guess that's why landscapes are very important.
There's another question, and you never get offended, so I can ask you. The question of age is something that you handle very interestingly. Like, in this book, I forget this. The mother is looking out at some guy, and he happens to be very much older than the protagonist, and she's going through all kinds of emotions at this point. And I find age a very interesting concept, like as a writer, because it's very dramatic, but also as a person, because I think I mean, like for me, love is all about, tension and attraction. So things are very different. They're very interesting. But I believe that now with the new generations, like, any age gap is a cancel culture thing. Like, I find that. And how do you look at this kind of evolution, like, in terms of how we perceive age, for instance? Men's age, women's age, because I find the tension in your work, and I just really want to ask you, have you?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I guess there's a cancel culture if it's a guy going out with a younger lady, but when it's an older lady going out with a younger guy, is there a cancel culture in India? Not so much. It's harder. Ah. Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah.
No, no, don't look at me.
I don't know. My husband is 9 years old younger, so I would be cancelled here because of that. Yeah. But because they're envious of me, maybe. No, I don't know. I haven't thought about this. Yeah, I'm still thinking about cancel culture because I think it comes from a good place, you know. But I think you have to look. You cannot judge like a blanket.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And then we wanted to. There's a lot of things I cannot ask Pilar on the stage. What do you? So I remember in one of my, some panel like this many years ago, somebody asked me to say two good things about men because they thought, you're a feminist writer, and you must hate men. So can you just tell us two good things about men? And I had to say, I have many good things, but I had to say two things. So, do you get, this is not a question because you're a women writer, but do you get typecast as a feminist writer? And are you asked if you like men?
I think it's clear to me that I like men. I can say two good things about men. They can open bottles.
Bottles, yeah.
Yeah. And the other thing that I like about men,
cannot
I'm
say.
not gonna say. But you all know what it is because you like it too. Yeah. Um, and yeah, sometimes, and I've been like editing this female women's library, how do you say women's library?
It's been translated.
Biblioteca de Escritoras Colombianas. How do you say that? Yes, I've been editing this, so I've been asked by men, like, and when are you going to do the men's library? And I'm like, you do it if you want, but it's our whole history, you know?
Yeah. I have been told I can ask two more questions and then we're going to open up for audience questions. So I'm just getting you to get ready. Pilar, what are you working on now, or is that too taboo to talk about?
No, I am working, like, I've been working for about since we met
Okay.
in Hong Kong. I've been writing short stories, and like every 2 years, I say to my agent, I'm going to deliver the short story book, and when I deliver, it's a novel, yeah. And she doesn't believe anymore, yeah. But I'm working on a
Yeah,
short,
short
story
stories.
collection, yeah,
Oh,
which
okay.
I hope I will deliver next year.
Is there a difference that you feel when you're writing short stories and writing novels, or?
Yes, yes. Writing novels is like running a marathon, you know? You have to train for a whole year, and then you have to suffer for 2 to 4 hours running it, yeah? A short story just happens, yeah? Then I rewrite it a lot, and I leave it there for many years until I publish it. But I think it's different, very different.
Um, I want to. You're talking about the women's library. There's something I remember. I was teaching a course at some point on women's writing from the global south, and there's this work of Gloria and Dalzua, The Bridge Called Her Back, which is this early. I think it was an English anthology of a writing of a lot of women from Mexico, but also from Colombia and the other places. Do you have any intention of bringing this Colombian women's writing into English, or so that it goes into, like, I don't know, people like us can read it, or a smaller
I'm
selection
not going to
maybe?
do it. I'm finished. You
Okay.
know, for the next 5 years, I will only read men because I don't want to to edit to work anymore editing, you know. I lost a lot. I loved this work,
Yes.
and it was important, you know, but I had to read just for working.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah?
Not for pleasure, yeah.
Not for pleasure, and I want to read for pleasure. And it's a lie. I start reading a man now, and 5 minutes later I'm getting in another book, and it's by a woman, you know, because I'm hooked
Okay.
to women's literature. But I want to read for pleasure. For
Pleasure.
Yeah, I don't want to edit anymore.
Um, one last question. How do you think that, social AI, for instance, and I'm asking this to everyone I meet, how do you think AI is changing the landscape for both writing and for translation or research? Like, does it affect your process? Like, are you using AI or like to find something or like to translate? Does it play any role or?
I'm amazed because everyone
Yes.
can write now.
Yes.
You know, I get emails by, I don't know, my son's squash coach,
Yeah.
and it's perfectly written. And I told my husband, look, he writes so good. And he says, it's not him, it's the IA, you know? And well,
Yes, everyone can
that
write.
everyone can
true.
write. Everyone can write, yeah? And will be replaceable soon.
Do you think AI would be so brazen?
Not,
Will AI
not,
be
maybe not
provocative?
in our,
No, not the two of us, but
not for the two of us because we're unique.
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah, yeah. No AI will be as shameless as we are capable of being.
no, but I have a friend that works with it, and he's shown me things that we don't see because we're not paying for these, the ones
Yeah,
Chat
yeah.
GPT and that. It's but
Exclusive.
yeah, but the ones he uses, he's, for example, when Abyss came out,
Yeah, yeah.
he told the
AI.
AI
Mm.
to he gave it the first chapter,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
and then to continue it. And he said, "What do you think?" And I'm like, "I think it's like me, but bland. You know, it needs
Oh.
spice, but it's amazing.
What it can do? Oh,
Yes,
wow.
what it can do. Yeah."
Yeah, we better attend all the festivals before this kind of thing happens. Now is the time for audience to ask questions. I think I've had Pilar for myself for a long time, so yeah, please feel free.
I don't bite.
She doesn't bite. Yeah, that's Natasha Brown, but yeah.
Thank you for such an engaging and wonderful talk. I was really interested in how you see your work in translation, because for so many readers, they'll be meeting you through translation. What's that process like to you?
Well, I can only read English, so I've read my works translated by Lisa Dillman. Now my new novel is going to be translated by Megan McDowell. And, you know, it's weird because you cannot read yourself as you read other people. Yeah, I don't enjoy reading myself. I always find like, oh, I could have done this better. Yeah, but when I read Lisa Dillman's The Beach or Abyss, I'm like, I like this novel. I like it. You know, I want to write that novel. Yeah, so it's fantastic because she makes me see my work like as if it wasn't mine. But the other languages, I have no idea. You know, they ask me, and what do you think of your translation into Mandarin? And I'm like, I hope it's good. You know.
We have time for one quick question. Please keep it brief.
I was just wondering about your experience of editing versus writing and how that was like, especially when you're reading other women's, other perspectives, maybe perspectives you're not used
My
to.
experience with?
Editing. Editing.
Ah, okay. Um, it was very complex. Most of my writers were dead, and that was good. Yeah, because I could take decisions without asking them, but thinking, what did she want to say here? Yeah? Um, and most of the works that I published were not first editions, but second or third editions. Yeah, so they were works that were edited. It was very complex getting the rights, yeah, dealing with the errors of the work. That was the most difficult part. Imagine I had 96, 97 writers, yeah, 20% were the rights were free, but it was a huge process. Huge. I learned a lot as well. Yeah, I was denied my the real Colombian canon in literature because we only read men in high school and in university. So now I have a bigger understanding of what our literature was like since the beginning.